How's it all been
How
going?
you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. How about yourself?
Good, good. Yeah, looking forward to chatting.
Yeah. What's been the latest in the last couple of weeks? Anything? I've got one thing, but
Yeah,
you go.
what's your big thing for the
Well, I don't know what you feel, but I have. There's been just a lot of chatter, even made like mainstream headlines. Is a couple of things around AI that I find quite interesting. One is that they've many believe sort of the hype cycle is sort of reaching its peak. I don't know if you've sort of heard that, and a lot of people are questioning these AI business models. And so I was I had a few thoughts, but wondering if you had heard that as well. Is that sort of the vibe that you've been getting lately?
there has been a lot of that arena bubble, kind of talk. And y- I mean, it's interesting because I think there's a lot of unease about the economy in general. And
Mm,
I think that is driving a lot of the AI talk
yeah.
from the economic standpoint. But the thing that I think is nonsense in the discussion is the idea that the pace is slowing down.
Mm,
Because I've heard that, and I've heard people say, well, that if you look at GPT-5 and what was expected, and you know, um, kind of the pace of development. I think if you really look at the data on that, the pace is exactly what it's been, if not faster. And you look at what is coming out of Google on a daily basis now, and the level
mm,
of innovation there is just spectacular. And
mm,
I
mm,
think you mentioned what's happening in voice. We're exchanging messages before, and I think
mm.
what's happening in images and video is just unbelievable.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
you know, this idea that we're kind of reaching a flat line on AI technology and innovation, I think is just bananas. That
Mm,
I just don't see any support for that. And so, in terms of the economic, it's hard to say, as we've talked about that. I think there's so much distortion in the market in terms of, subsidization of, particularly heavy users. Like, I don't
mm,
think people like you and I are paying a fraction of what we're costing
mm, mm.
Anthropic and OpenAI.
Yeah, potentially.
Um, it's kind of like, I always look at it like the gym membership. That they're the people who sign up in January, pay the whole year, and only go for 3 weeks, and then you get the people who are in there, 5 days a week for 2 hours. And I think that gyms always make their money on the people who pay and don't use it. And I think that AI is probably very similar.
Mm,
But I still don't think there's the sense that we're kind of paying actual costs or anything near to it. So I don't know. I mean, I don't I don't feel there's a bubble technologically, but economically it's just hard to say because the whole
mm.
global economy seems like it's slowing down.
Yeah. It's very multi-faceted, isn't it? Like there's a lot
Yeah.
of you could say that one company's funding round is a bubble, whilst the growth of AI usage just gets more and more every week. So, it's very multi-faceted. I mean, I'm on the same wavelength as you. I think that these things seems to just make good headlines, so that's why you just constantly see it for like a week or two. But yes, GPT-5 maybe wasn't like AGI or whatever that is. I don't even know what that is, but what everyone likes to think is this unknown and amazing thing that's going to happen with AI, which I still don't quite see. But um, GPT-5 brought the higher quality models to hundreds of millions of people. So, like in
Yes.
terms of impact, I mean, that's pretty significant. I mean, if everyone was still using GPT-4 or GPT-4o, and all of a sudden they have access to the highest quality models through their free accounts, their $20 account. I mean, that's pretty significant. I mean, that's a bigger unlock than most of the big things we've seen over the last couple of years. I mean, that's sort of my take.
Totally agree. I mean, the jump from GPT-4 to GPT-5 thinking is enormous. And so, for the vast majority of people, I think who were, just, yeah, and it was something like, what did they say? It was something like over 90% of people never bumped from the default model.
And
So
I find that incredible. It's because of how good the other models were. It's just it's but when you say that, actually, I'm not surprised because I was talking to like people in my family, like extended family, and yeah, they never changed the model. They just
yeah,
accepted the one that showed up. No, I just don't think everyone are model connoisseurs or were model connoisseurs. So that one change, even though it's not the most incredible upgrade in quality model for the connoisseurs like us who were really deep in it, man, it unlocked a massive capability gap for literally hundreds of millions of people. Like that is
yeah.
pretty unbelievable, really.
Well, and the truth is, I mean, the rollout was
Mm.
just botched left, right, and center. I mean, they could not have done a worse job with that rollout. But
Mm.
the model itself is really good. I was actually, I tend to use Claude Code and therefore, Opus and Sonnet
Mm.
most these days, but actually they've been having some real problems. I don't know if you've experienced it, but
My Claude
even
code has been
Anthropic
crashing.
admitted it today.
Oh, right. Has yours been crashing? Because mine's been crashing the last couple of weeks, and I actually gave up on Friday and I moved to Cursor agents, which was using GPT-5. And quite impressed. Quite impressed, honestly. Like I thought it was quite good.
I had the exact same experience last night that Claude just had like a brain seizure, and it just totally trashed my I was really close to solving a problem that taking me a couple hours, and unfortunately, and this is my own fault, I didn't get commit before I I went ahead with the next step, and
Yeah.
Claude literally just went on a rampage through my code, and I
Really?
basically just thought it was easier to start over, and I started over with GPT-5 thinking in OpenRouter, and I was
Right.
actually really impressed. It was the first time I'd done difficult data analysis with GPT-5 thinking, and it
Mm.
was good. That I'm not
Mm.
ready to make that my go-to daily model necessarily, but
Mm.
I found it really, really solid.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been the same. Like, I mean, I dumped out of Claude code after last week because it was just annoying, just really annoying, just kept stopping on me. And so yeah, tried out. I still have Cursor. I still have Windsurf subscription. These are one of the ones I've kept. And Cursor actually has, I didn't even realize, but they have the ability to open up multiple tabs now as well. So you can kind of do the multi-agent thing within Cursor with GPT-5, which I didn't actually know until I started using it. So, when I'm got a bit of energy, I've got a few tabs open, just working on a few little things on my app, and it's I don't know, like I did mostly just front end, like organizing like what UX stuff, and I thought it was pretty laser sharp. I was very impressed. So the numbers sort of play out like what you hear in terms of the benchmarks and all that. It does sort of play out in reality. Just the other thing, the thing that this bubble talk misses, right, is it misses the fundamental um, play of venture capital. So I mean, it's easy to call a bubble when things are priced incredibly high, right? And maybe things are very, very high, And I saw Anthropic they were going to raise some money at like 100 billion, and they raised at 180 something billion. And so, like, there's obviously some froth in the market, but what that and it's very easy to say, oh, that's a bubble, right? But and look, maybe it is in that individual case, but fundamentally, VCs know when they go and spray money everywhere, they know that 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10 are going to fail. and they just need to be in the winner. They need to be in the winners, right? This is their entire business model. It has been like if you read any of the history of VC, it's all about the winners. It's all about the Ubers. It's all about
Yeah.
the Amazons, the Alibabas, all this kind of stuff. And so that's
You
why
can't win the lottery without buying tickets.
that's right. And so yes, some are going to fail, and they absolutely know that, and that's just like a given of the business model. And so I think just counting a high valuation there, a high valuation there, and then defaulting to this is a bubble, I think is just an easy it's just lazy thinking. It's lazy thinking,
Mm.
right? I think we've got to think a little bit deeper. And to me, the thing with AI that I've always thought, right, is and really firmed up on my view in the last few months is that maybe AI is not the big money earner. It's the building the platform around AI to sell you lots of other things or other ways of getting work done. Like if you can sell a job to be done inside of a ChatGPT environment that used to cost someone, used to take someone half their time of their job, that might have been $50,000 worth of work, and you can get that done for $5,000 or $10,000 in an app and a piece of software that is somewhat intelligent. That's probably where all the value is ultimately, right? And so if you can get everyone using your product, then you can build this piece, this application inside of it, this application. It's if ChatGPT becomes the operating system of the future of work, well, then they're going to have so many little apps that they could upsell you on. It's just unbelievable. Same with Claude, same with Gemini,
Yeah.
same with any of these guys, right? So,
I mean,
uh,
Google is I mean, they are going all in on that in the sense that you go to labs or studio now, there's like 40 different things you can play with. I mean,
yeah,
yeah, and there's more every day. And just yesterday I posted about, how you can use their tools if you're studying for one of the certifications like the PL 300. In
yeah,
5 minutes, you throw a book in there, a PDF of a training book.
mm,
You give it one fairly detailed prompt, and in 5 minutes you've got an infinite number of training questions and practice exams. You know, that used to be over $100 to buy just a couple of practice exams. And
yeah,
now, as part of your subscription, and you know, particularly when Pact runs these, $5 ebook, promotions, you just
mhm,
buy a bunch of books, you know, throw them in as you need them in the context, and you've got an incredibly good app.
yeah. And if you have users, you can find a way to monetize. You know, everyone I remember a couple of instances. Google didn't used to make money for a long time until they turned ads on, right? Facebook didn't make money for a long time until
Yeah.
they turned ads on. Like, there's always a way to. There will be a way. If you, I think what you find in these big firms or the ones that become like big in new eras is that if you collect enough talent together they can usually find a way. And so that's what's going to happen with these big firms. I mean, they're acquiring talent like crazy, all the best talent. They'll just find a way. And if you've got hundreds of millions of users using your product, you can absolutely find a way. I mean, even if you have 100,000 users using your product, you can find a way to monetize. I was just thinking, like, so for example, Lovable. Okay, let's just use Lovable as an example. So Lovable, everyone thinks that they don't make money because everyone's just like chewing through AI credits, and they're probably just paying Claude or Chat or OpenAI for the AI, right? But I was thinking, okay, if that's the case, they still probably have millions of users, right? There is a lot of people making money around them that they could then do themselves. Like there's a lot of people buying domains. There's a lot of people using
Mhm.
databases. There's a lot of people needing to host their websites. Like they could start charging for all of the stuff that is like existing around their core AI product, right? So that's just one example. That's just one example of what I think could potentially happen. So it kind of just, I mean, I'm just kind of trying to circle back to, people are saying that no one's making money from this AI thing. Well, I think that there is a lot of people making money, but maybe it's just not the actual individual pieces of software right now, but they will find a way. Like they will find a way. If you've got lots of users, you can usually find a way.
Did you see Superbase may got another five billion?
They raised 5 billion higher.
Yeah.
Wow. That's
I mean,
insane.
they are just
Well, I mean,
that
my
that's
my bill is $450 a month. with it at the moment.
Mine's still under 100, but
Yeah.
it
Well,
keeps
well,
going up
I have
because
like 12 databases, like 12 different instances on like all
yeah.
my little apps that I got, and big apps as well. Like so, yeah. I mean, I'm a big customer now. Big customer. I'm paying them like 5 grand a year to be a customer.
Yeah,
Mm.
it's a spectacular product.
Mm.
One of the things that I don't know if you've been playing with, talking about really great products, is if you've been playing with any of the new Chinese models, Quinn or DeepSeek V3. Um,
I haven't. I honestly, I have not had time to like really play with them a lot. I mean, I've used them here and there, but I mean, it's, in the way that I use them, it's very hard to tell them apart from anything else that I'm using. So I don't know what are your insights around it.
well, I mean, I'm actually finding, that I mean, the interesting thing about Quinn is it recently in I can't remember which benchmark it was. It's one of the ones that I think is quite rigorous. It was the number one ranked data analysis
Mm.
model, and
Mm.
it is unbelievably cheap. I mean, I
Yeah,
ran for like 2 hours in it, and I think I spent a buck.
yeah,
And it one of the things that I heard is that the new I think it's the newest DeepSeek. I'm not sure if it's the newest coin or the newest DeepSeek. There's one of them that is a max version that is now not open source. And I think that's fascinating in the sense that, the Chinese models have always been open source. And
mm,
there's almost this sense now that if you're behind, you go open source, and if you're ahead, you go closed. And
ah, yeah,
I
yeah,
thought it was really interesting that for the first time, some of these big Chinese models are going closed source. And to me, that seems to signal they may think they're moving ahead on some of
yeah,
these. And
yeah,
my experimentation with them has been really solid.
yeah,
When I use them through OpenRouter and I've been doing analyses, I've been doing some coding with them, and they're very strong models
yeah, yeah.
and super cheap. I mean, Quinn is like, I think Quinn is 68 times cheaper than Opus.
Yeah, yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. Well, you can see geopolitically like what the Chinese are doing and trying to do. I mean, to me, it's so obvious. But I don't see it as like a totally bad thing at all. Like, I mean, it's easy to debate that, certainly. But if someone's offering you something that much cheaper than the other alternative, it's very, very difficult to not use that ultimately if you're using it at a very, very large scale.
Yeah, I don't make me, yeah, I tend not to make my AI use, highly political.
Yeah.
I'm kind of just testing, are these models good or not? And the ones they're turning out are really, really solid.
Yeah, I think that's what it will come down to. It will come down to quality at the end of the day. I think that if it's that much cheaper, I think unless you're in an incredibly secure environment, geopolitical decisions will probably not, be at play as much. I mean, I come from New Zealand, so I'm not like um too invested in that. It's a far more controversial topic in the US.
You talk about security, and I did have kind of a security awakening this past week. That
Okay.
did you see the art? It was an article in the Neuron. It was mid last week about the Comet AI browser that Perplexity has put out, which
I
has
saw I saw
gotten
it anyway. I don't know anything about it though.
gotten really good reviews, but security experts wrote about this thing called the lethal trifecta, which is when AI has access to the web, your local data, and can take action. Um, and so there was actually a security hole that they experts wrote about that
Mm,
said it showed kind of a 7-step process by which people were compromising credentials and then um, leveraging those credentials and the ability to execute code on the local machine
Right.
to actually gain access to the multi-factor.
Mm,
And they said
right.
once that happens, you're toast.
I
And
know.
that actually scared the hell out of me. That so I actually spent my whole Saturday um putting physical security on all my accounts.
Mm. Yeah.
Um
We're in a brave new world, aren't we? Like there is undoubtedly, I mean, I was involved in a bit of a scam earlier this
yeah,
year, and nothing, honestly, it's hard to know what we could have done about it. And there's no doubt that that was empowered by AI, and I'm sure it's happening everywhere. And like, so it's a brave new world. Like, there's just, I don't have answers to all of it, but got to be ultra aware, got to be ultra aware, ultra secure, just in general these days, don't you?
yeah. I mean that's where I've got it right here, the UV key, um where you know the approach I'm taking is you can't necessarily prevent that sort of compromise, but you can lock down what they can do with that information once they get
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
And that's actually something that the security experts I used to work with in the government used to joke that there are two kinds of computers that are compromised and computers you don't know are compromised. Um, and their
yeah.
whole thing was that if you're constantly chasing, trying to prevent malware, that you're always going to be behind. But if you
Mm,
lock
mm,
it down, if you lock the system down so that even if the malware gets in, it can't do anything damaging,
mm,
that they said that's a better goal. So if you lock your accounts and you lock your authentication credentials, and so even if somebody gets in, they're kind of walled off in terms of the damage they can do. And that's kind of, you know I did a lot of reading and thinking about that, because it's like, particularly playing with like MCP, and you're playing with agents, and you know you,
mm.
you kind of have that concern, which is that when there's something new, even if you're taking care to implement best practices, you're still taking some risk.
Yeah. Well, look, the word security is always used to paralyze anyone from doing anything. So I'm kind of uh, I'm a little bit anti the overuse of it, but
Yeah,
it's got to be vigilant. You just got to be vigilant. You got to be absolutely vigilant. You got to be thinking about these things, but you just don't want to be in a situation of paralysis to not take advantage of these latest things.
right.
I mean, one of the things that I'm crazy scared about is someone using AI voice, copying my voice on YouTube, and then like calling my parents or my dad or calling people like family members and sort of acting as me because the AI voice is like good enough. You can clone a voice like so easy now. And so we've kind of got I've got like a safe word with Ashley. I got a safe word with my dad. So to
I,
truly know if something like dodgy happens, just in case, you just got to be vigilant.
yeah, it sounds totally paranoid, but soon I've done the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Because you and I have hundreds of hours of video. These videos. I mean, it only takes 3 minutes to convincingly clone a voice.
I know. And
Uh,
like I have no doubt people are trying this. Like no doubt at all.
oh
No doubt.
yeah,
I mean, there is like I've seen plenty of documentaries that there is literally towers full of armies of people doing this throughout Asia, throughout Eastern Europe. Like there's just people everywhere doing this, doing like these things. They basically study all these techniques, and AI is empowering us. So I mean, look, I'm not going to be paralyzed to do stuff like personally, even though I've been involved in one of these security incidents. Um, it's just a cost of this new era. It's just a cost of
yeah.
doing business in this new era. And you just got to be like ultra vigilant.
Well, I mean, it's a cost of being connected to the internet, frankly.
Yeah,
It's like there's still zero day vulnerabilities that come out, and Microsoft isn't gonna correct until the following Tuesday. So,
yeah,
they're there are vulnerabilities out in the wild just from connecting to the internet, you know. So you don't want to be cavalier about it, but at the same time, as you say, like I'm just not willing to, stop experimenting. You just got to do it in a smart way.
Yeah. I mean, the just case in point, the last 12 months or so is the security case against vibe coding. Like I just always just shake my head at that. I think, yes, okay, yes, there absolutely is security concerns if someone doesn't know what they're doing. And there is probably some unsecure applications out there, but that's more so an awareness of what a vibe coded app is sort of for. Like, it might be just for some small thing. It's just, a lot of cases, vibe coded apps are just not going to be used as enterprise wide systems, right? And if they are, there's so many ways that you can figure out security, in your app. Like,
Right.
I've been deep in this for ever since the beginning. There is absolutely ways to securitize your app so that it is less risk. But a lot of people threw that up 12 months ago and then caused paralysis against people who've been trying this out, which I just find incredibly silly. So, there's always a way, but you know, it's just about educating and being vigilant about
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Yeah. And I think, there are a lot of folks out there, I think, doing really good work, like in the MCP community, there's, Pulse MCP,
it. Yeah.
is just somebody I really respect. And, and they're doing a lot in terms of working actively in that community to improve, the security protocols, to review apps and kind of say, which ones are which ones they believe are, high quality and safe. And so,
Right.
and the other thing that I've been finding is I'm using less and less because I do more and more in Claude Code now, and Claude Code just does so much in terms of, it has web access, it has local file access, it can execute things in the terminal. I mean, you
Mm.
you don't need a lot. I mean, a lot of the MCP stuff I've been building over the last year is, memory, which Claude Code has now, has a really sophisticated, memory management in Claude Code. Um,
Mm.
the desktop commander stuff, which Claude Code can do all itself now.
Hmm.
Um, you've got um, in terms of the ability to write the markdown. Again, Claude Code can do that. And so, a lot of what I think we've been using MCP for are things that are now just built in. I find I'm
Mm.
I'm
Mm.
kind of paring my set way down. Um,
Mm. That's interesting. Yeah, that's interesting. Well, if you want to become the operating system for your digital, work, like that's the thing to do, isn't it? Is that it's kind of like the iPhone. The iPhone
mhm.
initially, everyone was building apps, but if they saw a popular one that they thought that they could do better or something, they would just go build it themselves. Plenty of instances like that, isn't it? I mean, it's such an emerging ecosystem of tools. I read an article the other week, and I've thought this for some time, is that ChatGPT are going to open an app store. They're going to open an app store. I mean, I have, and this is just a perfect example of like how ChatGPT can monetize outside of the core AI, right? Is that you just look what Apple have done. I mean, the bulk of Apple's profits, I think, comes from their like subscription revenue to their apps and stuff now. Um, I have no doubt that ChatGPT is going to become a platform for these connected tools. And this article was sort of running through bit by bit where the sort of opportunities are. I might have actually put it in our community. Hold on, just give me a second. I'll just like have a look. But I don't know. What do you think? Do you think that's going to happen as well?
I think OpenAI has aspirations for a lot of things. Did you hear this week they're creating a competitor to LinkedIn?
Great. Thank God, honestly.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. Oh, that's great if they are. I did hear that like months ago, and I thought it was interesting, but kind of wondering why. But what have you? What was the latest? What was the latest?
Well, it sounds like it's pretty imminent. I mean, it's not just kind of like, oh, this thing they've got, kind of designs on in the future, but it sounds like something pretty close to rolling out. And I think part of it is kind of a focus on AI and coding type jobs. That I think
Mm.
I think they're catching a lot of flack. About the potential impact of AI on the job market. And so in some
Mhm.
sense, I think it's a nicely proactive thing to do in terms of
Mm.
saying, hey, we're working to kind of reduce that frictional unemployment and kind of place people into new roles. But also I think, there's got to be some self-interest in terms of, kind of identifying and scouting talent. Um, and
Yep.
also, the potential for ad revenue. Um, I think that they're really looking down the road to be independent from Microsoft. That I think
Totally. They're taking on
um,
Microsoft in every dimension.
absolutely. I mean, I think you've been predicting this for 2 years now that they're
Mm.
going to come out with basically the equivalent of the Office suite.
Couple of good points I just want to like drill down on here because I love to talk through like play out like the social media or the kind of LinkedIn competitor with it. But I watched an interview with the CTO, I think, of OpenAI. He basically said with all the products that they want to release, they they have oh sorry, they have so many products they want to release, but they can't release them because they don't have the compute to actually release them. There was one he made. He said that internally they have almost unlimited requirements for compute themselves, just within their organization. So when you like sort of just play that out, you think, man, wow, okay. I mean, they're going to use the compute that they're building in the Stargate thing to build more products that are going to latch onto the products they already have that they want to distribute, where people are just going to be using tokens and compute like crazy. I mean, I've seen lots of little. I saw that they had a CRM product that they were building. They're building like a spreadsheet product as well. I saw in a video they're building a social media site. Like, I mean, they're going for it, man. They are going to take on. They're taking on. I mean, we've said this, but we remarked about this like ages ago. It's just unbelievable how many people they're trying to take on all at once. I mean, they're
Yeah.
also creating a physical device as well. With Johnny Ive, like it's unbelievable. Unbelievable. But I mean, they have a lot of money, right? Like they raised $50 billion or something. Like they've got to spend it on something. So
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting, kind of the different the personalities I think that each major player is taking on.
mm,
That I think OpenAI is clearly going for the general audience. Um,
mm,
they seem to be, they've kind of got the brand name, they've got, I think everybody in both of our worlds who is not a data person subscribes to, if they subscribe to anything, they subscribe to chat gpt, and
yeah,
even if they don't subscribe to anything, they most certainly use chat gpt free. So
yeah.
in terms of the general population, they've got, they're so far out in front of
Consumer,
that.
yeah. They're
um,
absolutely dominating. I don't see how they get past it at this point, personally.
and then you look at Anthropic, and they are going for the coding crowd. I mean, they have abandoned, I think, designs on the general public. They are all in on, everything. If you look at all their ads, all their focus, Claude code. It's
Well, their
it.
revenue's up 500% in 6 months. So what they should, if you were smart, like that's exactly what you should do. Yeah, I mean, it's no surprise to me at all.
I mean,
Also, are you seeing ads on TV and stuff? Are you seeing ads on TV for Claude Code?
no, but I see, like on LinkedIn, I see
Oh, okay.
20 ads a day for Claude.
Wow. Crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. And usually when I see that many ads for one thing, I say, this is annoying. Don't show it to me anymore. But I actually think the Claude ads are pretty good. And so they're less annoying than most of the other LinkedIn ads. So I keep
Right.
them on there. I'm kind of curious that, the way Anthropic is positioning themselves. I mean, it makes sense, and I think Claude Code is a spectacularly good product, but
Mm.
it also seems pretty dangerous because it's a pretty narrow community, and we all know that none of us have any loyalty to anything. That the minute there's something much better, we're gone. You know,
Well, it comes down to what we discussed. I think they're going to build a platform. They're going to build an ecosystem. I mean, they'll just find other ways to monetize. If the AI portion is not the, I mean, if you've got millions and millions of users, that's what you can do. But yeah, because we can move. Like I moved this week and I'm fine in Cursor Agent now. So
right?
it's they'll keep find they need to find, and I'm sure they will find. I mean, they just raised billions of dollars so they can acquire the talent that will just figure it out. Like that's what will happen at these big firms.
And I think in some respects, I think Google is the most interesting because I'm not. I mean, their position right now is innovation. That they are just innovating like nobody else. I
And
mean,
milking the cash cow like nothing else as well.
yeah, yeah. I mean, they basically taken over the internet. Um, and I mean, quite honestly, they're the most interesting one to me. That I'm probably like the only Google Ultra subscriber I know.
Mm.
Um, Not because I think it's really necessary, but because it's super interesting. Um,
Yeah.
and I'm really fascinated. The quality and the innovation of what they're doing is spectacular. Even though in most cases, I, I sometimes have a hard time even figuring out what to do with it. Um,
Mm.
I mean, just the other day I was playing around with a tool they have for creating custom alphabets. And I was creating like alphabets out of like aerial pictures of corn mazes. Okay,
Yeah, right.
there's no use for that, but it's fascinating, like the things they're thinking about. And in
Mm.
terms of the multimodal, the language translation in real time. I mean, there's a spectacular set of labs out there in Google Studio, Google Labs that I have to think with the resources they've got, the people they've got, that quality of innovation is going to pay off huge at some point.
So
There's
low. So
there's
low.
some product or some service we're not even thinking of yet that they are perfecting, and they're
Yeah.
going to
Oh,
just
I will.
drop on us one day.
No, no, no. I mean, they make so much money. They make more money than anyone. Like they've got so much latitude to innovate and figure things out. I mean, they're milking their last prop like their all the big tech profits are like records like recently. They're all just going up, 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 spending more on core infrastructure like data centers and stuff like that. Like, I mean, these guys are just going to get so big. It's just, I mean, we've been saying this since the beginning of our vibe casting. Like, there's just no stopping. All of these guys, the market is so big. It's so big for all this stuff. That's why this talk of, bubble here, bubble there is just ridiculous. Like there's so much usage. The usage of just underlying AI tokens every single week just goes up and up and up and up and up. And it's not going to stop. It's absolutely not going to stop.
Oh, so speaking of the token usage, did you see that OpenRouter now has an API where you can connect in and get their usage data, which I think is one of the most interesting data sets in the world.
No, really, no, no, I didn't see it.
Yeah, so you can
Oh,
hook right in and get, all the daily, weekly,
interesting.
monthly, year to
Interesting.
date,
You
and
could do some interesting analysis that you could put on a website or something
oh
like a insights AI insights website or something like that.
yeah, yeah. I actually I've been playing around with doing that in Plotly Studio.
Oh yeah.
Just getting a dynamic dashboard that's fed from that API. And I say I think if you're interested in AI, it's one of the most fascinating data sets out there. Um,
Mm. Yeah,
so
for
they
sure,
they
for
haven't
sure.
had an API into it until recently, but now that they do, it's a lot of fun to play with.
Yeah. Just going back to OpenAI, trying to create a social network site. Social networks. I just think it's the right timing. I think it's smart for any big player, like any big player, to create a new social network because the old social networks that we've created have become social media sites. They are just like media sites now, you know?
Yeah,
Um, LinkedIn is a media site for Microsoft from my
right,
perspective. Like mainly it just like pushes Microsoft's like anything Microsoft just pushes it like crazy in terms of my feed, and I'm sure many others. Um, and so no one's getting visibility. I'm not seeing getting visibility on basically anything other than like Microsoft stuff these days. They've ramped up the algorithm there big time. Um, X doesn't give you any visibility as a business or as a person unless you're being outrageous
right.
and saying clickbaity things. Yeah, I think there's just, and we've talked about this trend, like, Substack is growing like crazy because people want more authentic content and stuff. Like, so it'll be super interesting what they come out with. I have no idea what it will look like ultimately. I'm sure there'll be like AI embedded into a lot of it, but um, I think it's a great time for new upstarts in this area. I think people are dying for new avenues to connect with people. I mean, I've been trying to build our own one, EDNA Builders. It used to be called AI Builders. It's not easy. It's not easy, but I would rather have a small group of 50 to 100 people that I'm just talking to about this stuff all day, every day, than on those mass market platforms because I'm just being fed stuff I don't want to read, you know?
Right.
So I think it's, I mean, from their perspective, it's hard to cater towards everyone else, and they have like different stakeholders, and profit is there obviously a huge driver for them. But in terms of, just wanting to collect with, like, get, be in touch with people that are interested in the same things as you, that's very hard to find now in these mass platforms. Because I watched this. Did I watch it or did I read it? No, I watched it. It was a really interesting YouTube clip as to why a lot of us feel like social media has degraded. Because I used to feel like that, particularly on LinkedIn. I used to get a lot of content that people I followed. Same on YouTube. I used to always get people I followed, but the following aspect disappeared when TikTok arrived and was really successful because they showed
Yep.
that followers don't actually matter for the success of your platform. That was what this documentary said. And I was like, yeah, that's so true. I totally agree with that. And I was like, yeah, that actually was the start, I think, of how it degraded for me because um, I just wasn't seeing stuff that I was actually interested in as much. It was more like the stuff that rose to the top was the most clickbaity stuff or was the most like outrageous stuff or there's the stuff that sort of got your emotions more going rather than just like a informational diet, like the informational diet that you wanted to see. So, you know, that was my long-winded way of saying I think there's a lot of opportunity for disruption in this area. I truly believe that.
Oh, I absolutely believe it. And I think the Cory Doctorow, 4 steps to enshittification,
Totally.
that is just a brilliant piece because it just explains so much of the progression of you know almost every mature social media site. And
That's right.
I think you're right. I think that there's a lot of dissatisfaction. I mean, I don't know anybody who enjoys. I mean, other than like Substack and Medium to some extent
Mm,
enjoys the platform they're on, you know.
mm,
And
mm,
so, I think there is a huge, market for particularly some of these, these big money, tech players to come in and create a good site, kind of draw a lot of people and, take advantage of that dissatisfaction and kind of the fourth, the ones that are particularly in the fourth stage where they're now exploiting their paying subscribers.
yeah, it's such you hear that word in shitification everywhere now. It's a really good analogy for so many different things, isn't it? I was and social media is where that played out clearer than anything really. But it's the same with Google, Google search, and various other things, many other things.
Well, the interesting thing is I think Google has used AI to de-shitify their search because it I mean I was out there as loud as anybody in terms of saying, when Perplexity came out, that I stopped using Google search because, all I got was just sponsored results and just crap.
Yeah.
And, now I got to admit that, the times I don't go and just punch something into Perplexity or into, into like Google Deep Search, I'm back to using Google search because I just, a lot of times what I want is just that initial AI summary.
Mm.
And I'm just looking for you know, a factual piece of information, and it provides you exactly what you need.
Some people will cringe at the thought of you saying that AI was providing factual information, but I'm with you.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I know, but the thing
But
is,
people forget that the internet was filled with absolute crap. Like, but you had to click a link to actually go and see it.
but I mean, I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I've actually found those AI summaries to be pretty good.
Yeah, well, they're obviously using the latest models now, so they are far superior to what they were 2 years ago. Even though they are destroying the internet, they are like just absolutely ripping apart the general internet. Oh yeah, but don't you? I mean, most of that was a move to like a competitive. They were getting crushed by a competitor, so they were
Right.
sort of forced. They were forced to do this. Um, and obviously, they want to get people hooked on their AI versus ChatGPT, and that's going to be the way that they do it. Um, it's very interesting. It's very interesting. It's a competitive world out there. Even at that top layer.
Yeah. You brought up the issue of hallucination. I wanted to see, have you read the OpenAI paper that came out this week
No,
about
I just
why?
I saw a YouTube thumbnail that said hallucination solved. So that's as far as I've gone.
Yeah, that's kind of typical YouTube hype nonsense, but
Yeah.
it I thought it made a lot of sense in that
Right.
what they were saying, as I understood it when I read it, that what they're saying is the hallucinations to a large extent, like when hallucinations are good, we call it creativity. When they're bad, we call it hallucination. But
Mhm.
part of what they're saying is how we train models is that models are rewarded for guessing, not for saying that um, if they're not sure that they don't know, that you're not penalized, you're you, you're much higher rewarded for for a right answer than you are
Mhm.
penalized for a wrong answer. So
Mhm.
in some sense, we've been training these models to hallucinate to maximize, the their their reward function. And so what the paper argued was we just need to re-evaluate those reward functions and penalize models more heavily for wrong answers and train
Mhm.
them to, that I'm sure, you know, the AI experts are cringing and think that's a drastic oversimplification, but I think
Mhm.
that's the general gist of it, which is that we've just not penalized models heavily for wrong answers.
Mhm.
And so, I mean, that's actually one of the things that I've been pretty impressed with GPT-5 is I've had it tell me at times, I don't know.
Oh,
That
really?
that's
Mhm.
not something I can figure out. And
Interesting.
um, that's literally the first time I've seen because the one huge problem I have with Claude, and it is an enormous frustration I have with Claude, is Claude will make us like if Claude can't figure something out, Claude will just start making assumptions. And it
Right.
won't tell you that it's using mock data or it's using simulated data. It'll just
Mm.
start doing it. And
Yeah.
I had one last night where I was trying to I was trying to extract data from a complex image that had kind of a repeated pattern.
Hmm.
And I was reviewing what Claude produced, and it was like, where are you getting this stuff from? And it was like, oh, I couldn't read the low res part of the image. And so I just started assuming what that type of data might contain. And I'm like,
Yeah.
well, shit, you got to tell me that. Yeah. Like, and then, from that point on, and I've had to do that a lot of times that I feel like Claude is, in some sense, more severely trained to just provide you an answer.
Yeah.
And it'll jump right into that, simulated and assumptions faster
Mm.
than either of the other two major models I use.
I've always found that with Claude. It used to drive me insane when I was using it 3.5 for coding, 3.7 for coding. 4, it got a lot better, but then on the odd occasion, it would just go absolutely crazy and it would just do absolutely stupid stuff to a code base. And sometimes I would catch it, sometimes I wouldn't. And then I would commit some of my changes. My developers would look at it and shake their head and say, this is absolutely terrible. Um, and I would then throw my hands up and say, I'm a vibe coder. You're a developer. Um, so yeah, no, I totally agree with you. Totally agree. I've always found that with Claude. That was what I was like pleasantly surprised with over the last couple of days with GPT-5. It was laser sharp. It was a very laser sharp. Sometimes I've felt that way with Claude, and then it just like it lets me down. But the last couple of days, I've sort of felt that with GPT-5, which is what you want, right? You want it to really follow direction, not make up stuff, check stuff. So, look, I'm sure those are us, yeah, those are first world problems for us model connoisseurs, but definitely some innovation needs to go on there for sure.
And I think there's been a lot. I don't know how closely you follow the Reddit discussions, and those can be useful or not,
Do you actually
depending
go
on.
on Reddit or do you follow them on LinkedIn? Copies of Reddit threads
No,
on.
I actually subscribe to some of the subreddits,
Oh,
and
right, good on
one
you.
of them that I do is the Anthropic subreddit. I subscribe
Right.
to the Anthropic subreddit, the Obsidian subreddit, and the MCP subreddit, which I feel like are ones that have quality discussion in them.
Yep.
And the one in the Anthropic subreddit has been really interesting because a lot of people have said their experience, like, first of all, this weekend, people were just going crazy saying, Claude has just lost its mind.
Right.
And Anthropic actually admitted today that they had two serious problems with Claude over the weekend. But
Mm,
the other thing that there's been a lot of suspicion about is that during peak periods where they're having trouble meeting demand, that and I don't know if this is true or not, I'm not saying it is, but there's a lot of speculation in the discussions that they're running distilled versions of the models that are less than the full versions. And
interesting. Interesting. And so that's why you get like really poor output sometimes. Because sometimes you think it's like the most unbelievable thing you've ever used, and then it lets you down, and then you're like, what's going on? So you think it
well,
could be
and
that?
it's interesting because a lot of people in Europe and Asia are saying when the US comes online in the morning, that's when Claude goes totally to shit.
Really?
And
Mm,
whether that's true or not, I'm not saying it is, but I do think there needs to be a lot more transparency in terms of exactly what model are you using.
mm,
Because I think we always used to say, I mean, I remember you and I have said it a million times that when a new model comes out, we're like, this is the worst it's ever going to be, you
mm,
know?
mm,
And I don't think that's true. I actually think models either degrade over time or
mm,
they get substituted sometimes for cheaper or kind of more available distilled models, and particularly as compute is still constrained, electrical grid is still constrained.
mm,
I It wouldn't surprise me if that happens. And
mm.
so, this idea that when a new model comes out, oh, it's going to remain that good consistently throughout its life, I don't believe that anymore.
Yeah. Well, it's just so fascinating, right? Like the amount of I mean, it's sometimes it's just hard to fathom what's sort of going on behind the scenes and how it all works, right? But every time we're hitting the model or everyone's hitting the model, I mean, it's going to a data center somewhere. They're having to fulfill that need somewhere on around the globe at all these data centers. And by all accounts, they're just running out. There is sometimes just not enough data centers to fulfill the requests that are coming through. And that's why they're building this project Stargate. That's why Meta's building this data center as big as Manhattan, because they believe and they're seeing that this is just the beginning. This is just the beginning of requirements here. And they cannot fill demand. And OpenAI CTO is saying we could have unlimited use of this just ourselves. We could use up all of our capacity just ourselves, just our firm.
Yeah.
So there is just this. I'm sure there's stuff going on behind the scenes because they're trying to maintain whatever product they're selling. They maintain the capability to provide it, but maybe they just can't physically provide it. They don't have the physical infrastructure to actually provide it, which is mind-boggling.
Well, I've heard economists say that the US would actually currently be in recession if it weren't for the capital expenditure on data centers
Yeah,
and expanding this capacity. I mean, that alone is kind of propping up the US economy at this point, which is,
yeah,
whether that's technically true or not, the fact that it's even plausible that the levels of spending are so high that that's plausible is pretty remarkable.
yeah. Again, another reason why saying we're in a bubble is just ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. The real story of usage tells you the exact opposite. It's just the beginning, really. It's just the beginning. Um, yeah, yeah. I mean, I think we talked about this a month ago. Like, there's a stat. Like, they think that we might have to spend by the end of the decade $1 trillion a year just to keep up with demand. I mean, it's just crazy to think about. $1 trillion in infrastructure, physical data center infrastructure. I mean, there was an announcement in New Zealand just the other week that $11 billion from Amazon is going into a data center. I mean, I just read a headline, but in New Zealand alone, $11 billion for a data center. So, I mean, we're a country of 4 to 5 million people. So,
Is that all?
yeah,
Wow. I didn't realize the population was that small.
yeah. So, there's just going to be such a need for these things. And the only people that can build them are big tech and large venture capital money. Like, it's the only
Yeah.
only people that can actually build this stuff. I used a desktop commander the other day, after you told me to use it. And I've used it one other time since. But man, I found that fascinating. I found that totally fascinating.
Spectacular.
And I built a dashboard. I actually posted about the dashboard that I created. And I was just like, I just, I mean, not everyone's gonna do this, but not everyone's gonna switch to that tomorrow. But it was very easy to set up, like super easy to set up. It was the most seamless MCP connection that I
Mm,
used to set anything up. So that shows you that the connections are becoming easier, which is good. Um, but
it's got a really slick web page. It's got,
yeah,
good instructions.
but I mean, and it was free too. I mean, it didn't cost me anything. Um, the um, the ease in which I was able to get insights. I mean, it was just like I just totally could not see the ongoing utility of Excel, traditional Excel. I couldn't see the ongoing utility of that. And even in some cases, lower level Power BI work, like easier, more simpler Power BI work. Um, I was struggling to see the long-term durability of that when I used desktop, the combination of desktop commander and Claude desktop. Just the speed I was able to get at it, the versatility, the dynamic way I could create it. I mean, it was just like so superior in all different dimensions. So man, that was an interesting experience, really interesting experience. I mean, it's not the best thing to post on LinkedIn, obviously, because of who owns LinkedIn, but I
You
just
you got you got you got a lot of play on that post.
yeah, I think people somewhat saw it. I'm interested to get your take on that, like in terms of just, I mean, you've been saying this for almost a year now, but about that sort of the future, and it's just like no doubt at the moment. But I keep getting, I just want to call out something that I find quite fascinating, is you keep getting the rationale even today that, well, how do you validate? How do you validate these insights? How do you know that they're right? I don't know what you think about this, but I kind of think a little bit cynically. And I say, well, how did you know before? I mean, when you looked at a Power BI report, how did you know that it was right? Did you look at the formula? Did you, how do you know that when someone put an Excel spreadsheet in front of you, unless you like dug really deep into it, how did you know? How did you validate it then? Like I don't actually see like the way you validated it with was with intuition. That's how you validate your reports and insights. It's how you did it before. I think it's how you do it now. You do it now. Like if you're using AI to create insights, you let the AI do the work, you validate with your intuition, right? Yes, you can go and dig a little bit deeper if you want, which is kind of it's just it's is easier than it was historically. But intuition played a role, historically, and it plays a role now. When if you're using it for other tools, and so that I kind of like roll my eyes a little bit now when I see those comments on my posts or other people's posts about, well, it's AI. How do you validate it? And I keep going back to, well, how did you validate it before? Like
Right.
it's exactly the same, exactly the same. I mean, it was a long time ago now, but like when I was in meetings showing reports or doing Excel stuff, people would be like, "Oh, are you sure that's right? Are you sure that's right?" And you'd have to go and like test your logic. Like it was just intuition, intuition. Nothing's going to be perfect.
Well, that's what people would always say, well, AI hallucinates. I'm like, you know who else hallucinates? Humans. Yeah. The best experts in the world are wrong,
Yeah,
some percentage of the time. And
yeah.
to me, it's like I kind of look at, this there's a great article that I reposted about that was posted by the folks at Pulse MCP called it was um about what the agentic loop and the power of AI with kind of the desktop commander capability, and so the ability to access files, read files, run code locally at the terminal, and then also to have vision. So if you take
Mm,
Playwright and desktop commander, so Playwright
mm,
lets
mm,
you lets you have vision to the web and screenshots, and it can press buttons. It can
mm,
basically act like a user. So it can test interfaces.
mm,
It can validate, it can help validate analyses. And so it's really interesting that there's a guy, and I want to shout him out. His name is Maxim Manatsko, and he has done something quite spectacular in the Power BI world, which is he has an MCP server that now connects to Power BI and can run DAX and performance traces natively. And
Very cool.
that is enormous. Like no one has
Yeah.
ever, to my knowledge, been able to do that before. And I talked to him today. I wrote about it today, and he's got a video. It's like a 13-minute video. And if you are a Power BI user, go watch that video because that to me that's the last link somebody needed to create, which is that in the past, you've all AI is no matter how smart AI gets with DAX and Power BI, it in order to evaluate whether something is correct, it has to take that DAX, convert it to Python or convert it to JavaScript, and then try to get the Python or JavaScript to mimic what DAX does in context. And
Mm,
so
mm,
you have two sources of error in that. One of which the original code might not be right. And so the DAX measure or the DAX query wrote might be wrong. But it also may be flawless. And the chances it probably is flawless, given the fact that AI models are now awesome at writing that stuff.
yeah.
The place where you get the problem is that it can't execute that natively. And he has solved that problem. And it now
Mm,
through MCP, he has a function that will use the Power BI semantic model and the connection to run the DAX natively. And so
mhm,
what that allows it to do is that agentic loop where now through desktop commander, through something like Playwright, it can write the DAX, it can evaluate the DAX, it can say, okay,
mm,
does this result match the target result? If not,
mm,
go back and do it again. And
mm, mm,
then it talks about kind of traceability. There's the when is the loop done, and then how do you trace each cycle through the loop and what information is created in that. And so I really think, when you read that article and you look at, the stuff you're doing with regard to Claude Code and agents, you can create validation agents that
Yeah.
are specifically geared and targeted to making sure that when it runs through this loop, that it's doing it in a way that produces accurate results. And I
Yeah.
think, a perfect example of this is, Plotly Studio just went GA this week.
Yeah.
And I've been talking a lot to the folks who are building that, and they were saying they have all these agents running, behind the scenes in the program, and they're running 150 to 200 data sets a day testing those validation agents and trying to make sure that the results it provides are really solid.
Mm.
And it's not just the traceability of the code, but it's the fact that the agents they're building in are built on this cyclical validation process. And so,
Yeah. Right.
I think we're not there yet, but I think we're gonna quickly get to a point where, as you say, AI outputs are probably more going to be more trustworthy than, you know, Steve from accounting, in the corner creating his massive spreadsheet.
Oh, I reckon they already are, personally.
Yeah.
They already are. Not 100% perfect. Like, it's still very unlikely to be 100% perfect. But compared to I mean, have you ever tried to? I mean, I used to try and validate 100-line DAX formulas, and like, good luck validating that. I mean, I couldn't do it back then, and they were being used in reports and things like that. I mean, what were people back then saying? But how do you validate it? Well, like, yes, you have to look through 100-line DAX query and try and figure out how it's actually coming up with the answer. It used to be way harder, way harder.
Oh, I mean, I'll tell you how I used to validate my annual budgets is I had my deputy. So I would build the budget, and then my deputy, I would give her a printout of my assumptions and a printout of my final summary sheet. And I would
Mm.
have her rebuild the entire budget from scratch from those assumptions. And then we would sit down and say, did you, number by number, did you get the exact same result I did? And if she didn't, we would then go back through all the supporting sheets and figure out where the discrepancy was. And it used to take us 2 weeks, to do that validation, at the level we needed to make sure that every dollar was properly calculated.
Yeah.
And, so, I,
And
I
you
guarantee.
could just throw all those parameters into an AI model now, couldn't you? Like, you absolutely could, and it would do it for you in like a minute.
Well, and that's I think the question is, it kind of, how can you do it independently enough? So can you
Mm,
throw this in the in the Claude and have it
mm,
do it in Python? Can you throw this
mm,
um into um Gemini and have it do it in JavaScript, and then
yeah.
have them compare the two? And at what point, yeah. I mean, the question I get is, well, couldn't they be hallucinating in the same way?
Mm.
And it's like, ooh, I don't know. I mean, it's a good
Well,
question, but it's
you and your colleague could have been hallucinating in your budget, in your budget thing. So
we we,
I
we
guess I
absolutely could have
guess
made the same mistake.
yeah,
Yeah,
and I'm sure it happened, but I guess when you incorporate AI, I mean, you could validate 5 times within, within a shorter space of time, right? So, so you can do more checks, the
right.
when obviously there's this new way of doing things, right? And it's a bit, um, you need to know how to plug everything in together, right? This is very different to maybe what we were used to in the data world historically, right? So, you know, historically everything was sort of like packaged together and you just got a subscription, and now it's all a bit decentralized. And I think a lot of people struggle with that. I mean, I struggle with that to be honest. I mean, I'm okay because I've got a small team and we don't really have to, we don't have enterprise data sets and all this kind of stuff. So it's I mean, how would you go about a strategy around this new way of doing things? It really like it to me, it's the real democratization of analytics, right? Like I've always been a true believer in the democratization of analytics. Like I thought it could have like truly happened with Power BI. A lot of the data traditionalists didn't really believe it, and I think Power BI has become more of an enterprise product now, like a IT data team enterprise product, rather than being used at the coalface, being used by the person who used to use Excel, for example. Um, but to me, this just is the perfect solution for that total decentralization, that total democratization. Getting, a lot of individuals within teams or within organizations, they're not dealing with massive data sets. They might need to connect to one or two, but they've got their own little data sets in their own world that they're exporting from different websites or exporting from their internal systems, and they're trying to bash them all together. Um, that to me, using desktop Commander um, and Claude Code or whatever, or Claude Desktop to actually run analysis really quick fire to actually get the insights, the speed to insight. To me, that is a far superior way to do it. Now, even now, even right now.
Oh,
Um,
I completely agree. And I've been kind of on the wagon that Claude Code is the best data analysis tool I've ever used.
yeah,
I mean, even though it's not marketed that way, and I think it's kind of an off-brand usage. The planning mode, the ability to kind of have it come up with a step-by-step breakdown.
mm,
There's also it's interesting. There's an MCP server called Sequential Thinking. I don't know if you've played with it yet, but
no,
it what it does is it forces an even more rigorous um, decomposition of complex tasks,
yeah,
and creates traces through those substeps. And boy, you take Claude Code and the desktop commander capability and that sequential thinking, and wow, that is powerful.
yeah. It's so different to the past, right? Because you're plugging all of these things in. It's not as straightforward. I don't know if it's as straightforward or not. To me, it feels straightforward, but for the general person, probably not. It's a different way of doing things, which I think is quite hard for most to get their head around. Even though it is, it's just a better way, I think, in general. I was actually thinking you could, when I used desktop commander, the thing that I diverted to, I was like, man, I could just honestly have created my own data infrastructure with spreadsheets and desktop commander and Claude desktop. I could have honestly built a traditionally what you would maybe have created a database for. Like you for the majority of people like businesses I've interacted with, they could build their entire data infrastructure. They could probably bypass any cloud-based database. They could probably just have spreadsheets, um, desktop commander, and Claude desktop. That's all they probably need to get a similar sort of outcome. If the whole idea behind your data strategy is just to get insights, right? It's not about to like build, the most comprehensive and optimized database. If it is truly the end goal is just to get insight, that was a better solution. It is a better
Well,
solution
did you
right
see
now.
that Claude can now directly create Excel files?
It can create Excel files. Wow, amazing.
I think exactly to your point. And the other thing it can do, it can connect directly to Google Sheets. And
Wow.
so if you think about it, now you've got Claude with literally the flip of one switch connect to Google Sheets. And so for a lot of people, I think you're absolutely right that Google Drive, Google Sheets, all connected seamlessly to Claude. Um, you've got you've got a pretty powerful data analysis system
Yeah.
without having to do anything else.
Yeah, there will be some of the data purists who might say, well, there is some benefits of like a core database infrastructure, like a traditional database
Sure.
infrastructure. Um, security being one of those things. But if you're a smaller organization, if you're just a really small team and you want to just like get quick fire insights, which is actually the vast majority of analysis from my own experience, um, that's what you need. So we need that. So it's all you need. It's faster, better, more agile. Um, you know, it's a new era in data analysis for sure, for sure.
Oh, I totally agree. I mean, that I've been now doing almost all my data analysis for clients, anything that's important for my own use, it's all in Claude Code now.
So isn't that just so fascinating? So fascinating. It's
I mean,
so
the
fascinating.
version control is great because you just set up a project directory, you point Claude Code to that project directory, you set
Mm,
up your MCP servers specific to that project, you set up your memory and your custom instructions specific to that project. And the minute you jump to another project, it just knows, okay, this is what this project's about. It can read the past chats.
mm,
It's got the memory file specific to that project. It's got custom instructions. It's got a tool set specific to that project. I mean, it is spectacularly customizable.
mm, mm. You know what? I always loved about Power BI was just how initially how flexible it was. It wasn't part of the enterprise data suite. It was just kind of this side thing where you could connect to an Excel spreadsheet and create amazing analysis. Um, it just supplanted like creating a PowerPoint presentation. Like it just removed the need to do that. You could create a more interactive, and then obviously it's been more pushed or leaning more towards like enterprise use now. Um, but yeah, I'm with you. Like I even think about my own usage, and I'm like, man, I would just rather just download a spreadsheet and download multiple spreadsheets, put them in an organized folder, and then connect them up to Claude Code, mash them all together, or Claude Desktop through Disk, mash them all together within that, and then just get a quick dashboard. And oh my God, I would save so much time. And I always default back to, and I even say this today. Like I even see this today. Like, man, there is a lot of time spent and money spent on just moving data around. Just moving data around, honestly. I just I shake my head sometimes. I shake my head at many how a lot of people justify this. Like you're just literally pushing data around for what? For what? Like the amount of time, money, it's just insane what is spent there when like what is the whole purpose? Once upon a time this data industry didn't exist, like there was you could exist as a business without moving this data around like people do. Um, the end insight, yes, that doesn't cover all use cases. And, don't get me wrong, like there is certainly like really important use cases for a lot of this data technology, but I think there's a lot of wastage, a lot of time wastage, a lot of money wastage doing things that are totally unnecessary now, like totally counter to the orthodoxy of like how you run a data program. Like you can be a lot more agile using just simple spreadsheets, and some of these latest AI tools. Like I think it's totally sufficient in a lot of cases, and it also comes back to, I think we might have discussed this just in writing to each other, but the idea of the dynamic artifact, like this is this new idea of historic. It's counter to. So historically, you might have created an Excel spreadsheet, you might have created a PowerPoint, you might have created a Power BI report. You could call those somewhat static. I know Power BI is a bit more dynamic, right? But they are somewhat static because you can't go and collaborate with them. You can't go and test assumptions live. But there's that Nate Jones come up with a really great terminology, the dynamic artifact. And I
I
love
saw
that.
that.
I
Yeah.
love that. It just got my mind going. I thought that is brilliant. That is exactly what is happening. That is exactly what is happening. It is just emerging, obviously, but that is exactly what is going to happen now with data analytics. Is that you'll quickly whip something up in Claude Desktop, for example, or ChatGPT eventually when they sort their stuff out. Um, and you'll be able to go into a meeting, but dynamically interact with the artifact, test assumptions, test new things, voice activate it. Like
Yeah.
it becomes more of a dynamic artifact, and I think we're we're sprinting to that new world now. Now I mean, I think both you and I are probably already there, but I think that is what's going to be the predominant way of getting insights.
Totally agree. Totally agree. And you mentioned Nate Jones, and he has just become like my morning staple.
Yeah.
I wake up in the morning, I have breakfast, and I watch the daily Nate Jones video. And I thought one of the best ones he had was about how badly all the chat interfaces suck at this point. And like I was thinking, really? Like, I don't think they're that bad. And then he
Yeah.
went through, did you see this one? He
No.
went through like 20 things that you can't easily do in the chat interface in any of them. It wasn't saying OpenAI or Claude. He said basically these are things we should be able to do easily in all of the interface, and we can't. And he
Mm.
went through like 20 things, and I swear to God, I watched that and I thought I could make good use of all 20 of those things. And
Yeah.
somebody who watches that video and has some skills in software development is going to build that interface. And I'll use it the day it comes out because it was so smart in terms of all these collaborative features, all these
Mm.
documentation features, all these kind of ease of use features that are not yet in the yeah, and in fairness, this industry is in its infancy. So it's easy to say here are all the ways in which the products are deficient. But I thought
Mm.
it was just such a smart, insightful take on really providing substance. And I would hope that everybody at these major model, makers has that video on repeat, and is just listening to it and taking notes about all the things he provided that I think any one of them would be major improvements. And
Yeah.
I was just blown away by how good that video was.
Yeah. It's so hard to make that type of content consistently. Like I'll come up with a good idea once a week or once a month or something, and like he's coming up with, it seems like almost every day or every second day, some like quite unique thoughts. And
Yeah.
and he must have a lot of time to ponder because I cannot think of that many good things like that often. It's just it's more like I call it sort of second order thinking or second level thinking. It's not the traditional clickbait, we're in a bubble crap. It's actually deeply saying, seeing, and having a point of view of how this will play out, how this could play out, how this is impacting things right now. Like the dynamic artifacts thing it's something that I had in my brain, but I didn't have a name for it. I was like, this is such a thing that, we both were using Claude Code and, we've both been doing this. And I'm like, this is the future, but I didn't have a name for it. I didn't have and in that one, just like, it was just like, wow, that's brilliant. That's a really brilliant terminology. And no doubt, yeah, I've been using it a lot. I've been saying that a lot lately, across friends and online and things like that. Yeah, it's a really, really, really
Have
good
you
one.
played with Google Opal yet?
No, I saw a clip on it. So this is their like agentic tool, right? Like you can build workflows.
It can build workflows, but it also can build these dynamic agent-driven artifacts. And it's
Mm,
free, it's experimental, but again, it's something that I think is really going to be something. And
yeah.
um,
There is
that
like just isn't yeah, I agree with you. And this is probably also why, by the way, that the OpenAI CTO is saying we have all these products we can't release because we just don't have the compute for it. Because I have no doubt they have an analytics tool in the background that just work constantly, just like all day for you, just analyzing stuff, and then we'll just be creating slides for you that you'll be able to just like flip it. I can almost guarantee they have built this, but they can't release it because they don't have the compute to actually do it.
right.
And I think I guess that's the same with Opal, right? Like they're kind of giving you the capability to build these agents that just will do tasks continuously if you want them to, and provide you these artifacts that you can use for your decision making or for creating things and things like that.